UN Copter Coverups for October 22nd. So this was a ridiculous event, and the context of this event was my phone is tapped, my brother's phone is tapped. My older brother was out on the driveway and he asked me to do something for him in the backyard. So I said, and this was during a period of time when it was dying down a little bit, so I said, yeah, I'll try to go out there and I'll do that in a couple minutes. So I gave a time frame of what I was going to do, and so I was in the backyard trying to do that and then keep running back out to the front yard and check. And one time I was in the backyard and I heard a copter coming, so I ran out front and there's a helicopter approaching from Geronimo Cordillera intersection, coming incredibly fast at me. And so this is another incident of personal interaction, just like the one around October 26th, I think, where he did a U-turn and didn't come over. He was coming from the park and then did a U-turn because I said that I'll delete a video and record it. So this is another one where he responded by slowing down and then figuring out what he's going to do. I have many of those. I have another one where they flew out over the two-story house across the street because I said something they didn't like and he was coming to threaten me. And then I was able to jump out and run out there and record him from the street. And then he turned left over the two-story house and then waved his tail like, screw you. Like, whatever, basically. But so I heard it and I ran out. So then I came out the side gate on the right side of the driveway if you're looking at the house from the street, and I started recording. So the helicopter stalled, incredibly slowed down a lot, and then he turned left and he went out over the two-story house, and it was the blue flimsy copter with the conical part that connects to the rotor blades, and I think it also has a bit of a fade, so the top part is a little bit of a lighter royalish blue compared to the dark blue of the rest of the body. And so then they were the whole purpose was to fly perfectly over my head, like the June 1st incident. And so he was, I guess, going to fly perfectly over my head when I was in the backyard, but then I came out to meet him, so he changed it. And so he turned right over he did the left and went over the two-story house, and then he did a right U-turn, and then he just descended right there. So he's basically hovering when he did the U-turn, and then he descended to 50 or 60 feet, like all right in front of me. It was ridiculous. And he did that on the 3 houses down from me at the spot where the police helicopter did the October 16th event, where he's trying to spotlight me in front of my house, and then he got stuck for 40 minutes or so doing circles on that house, and they never posted it on the police blogger. And then they said that there was a theft on Oliveira 2 days later, and so they almost got the bad guy that night, but then he got away and he actually pulled his robbery off. And then later they started trying to say that that was a Cessna and that it never happened. That's an aside though, but that's the location where he was. And then he proceeded to fly over me, and then I had already moved into the front lawn, so I'm facing him, looking towards Deseo Solero intersection, but slightly to the right towards James Crystal's house direction out on diagonal, as he approached me from 3 houses down, and he had just descended to 50 or 60 feet. So then he flew across me, and I pointed my phone at the ground for a second because I didn't want to just record him completely from above, but I did kind of record him slightly from above as he was leaving over my head. And as he was doing that, he kind of crossed over and turned right across the street and then went out over 24191. So, I mean, that just shows personal interaction. He was trying to get perfectly over my head so that they could cover up for June 1st. And when it went over my head, I noticed that they had the engine compartment open and that it was extremely loud. And I've heard that helicopter many times. I know what it sounds like from a distance. And this time it was rattling louder. And I saw all the engine pieces, all the little hoses and all the different things. And it's because they took the cover off so that it would rattle extremely loud, because I said that people could get an LG LK7 phone and fly an actual UN helicopter over it, and you would see that it's the same sound as the June 1st incident. So ever since then, they've been using silenced tail rotors. Then they've used this one with the compartment open, and then they've also recently used one with a plastic compartment covering to muffle it even more. And they've also varied the altitude, so they've varied the sound, the altitude, the plane model, and the colors, and the locations. And then, for instance, they used that same helicopter before, but with its normal metal compartment piece closed, and they had Cessnas harassing me on my house, extreme harassment, trying to use up my storage space, but most of all my battery, because my battery was at 8%, and then it went 7, and then 6, and then so the Cessnas picked up even more, and it was crazy. And then when my phone dropped to 5%, when the camera can't work at 5%, so that helicopter, it was in the park, and then they called it over, the same blue one, and it flew over my house if you're standing looking at my house from the street, from the right to left. slight curve left because it came out over the front lawn, incredibly low over my head, but my phone turned back on to 6% and I recorded it. So back to this actual event though, at 3:59 p.m., the helicopter then, after it went over my head and I recognized the engine compartment open and how they were trying to do the exact same incident as June 1st, did a dramatic descent over 24191, trying to sell the fact that like somehow that's Mount Everest, to say that there's a hill there. And so that's either possibly to say that that's why he was so low, because he was descending over a hill, and also to do a cover up for 24191 where the military copter turned, so that they can say that that's a landmark, it's a scary hill, and that's why all of the planes and helicopters turn there. So they always try to incorporate more than one thing, and they think that's smart. And then after that, the UN copter returned a few minutes later, and he came ascending, incredible ascension up that hill, like shooting straight up as if it's a big hill, and it's not at all. It's a gradual one that goes far out. And so they're trying to sell that hill. So then he had a dramatic ascent and then went left and went down my street.